you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful, sunny San Diego. And in today's MEGAphone episode, we will be shouting out the podcast Stronger by Science. Greg Nuckols and Eric Trexler, they did a great episode labeled Weight Loss Plateaus, Tough Love, and Energy Audits. The Stronger by Science podcast is definitely a higher level, more scientific type of podcast, so I rarely share the entire episodes on social media just due to the fact that most people I coach, they probably don't want to sit and spend the time listening to exercise and sports science jargon. But they really do offer some amazing content that fitness professionals can use to educate themselves and then help their clients achieve their goals. In this particular episode, Eric and Greg share an in-depth conversation on how to do an energy audit. And this is to troubleshoot weight loss plateaus. The conversation from this podcast covers topics including metabolic adaptation, which is how your body adapts to all the processes that use up energy, energy compensation, which is how your body compensates when you lack energy, and a long list of other factors that may lead us to overestimate our energy expenditure, like exercise and daily movement, and or underestimate our daily energy intake, which is things like our diet and our nutrition. So I just wanted to shout out some of the things that they shared in this episode, because right now I have about 30 people that I'm helping with this thing right now. It's called the Frog Fit program over at Eat the Frog Fitness. So I know that this content will really help them. But I also believe that this content will help anyone else that is stuck with their weight loss journey and can't figure out why they aren't losing weight. Even if you're not currently going through a weight loss journey, this information will be super helpful to have as you navigate your future endeavors with your health, your fitness, your wellness. First, let's talk about what plateauing means. Maybe you have been going strong on your journey to whatever health or fitness goals that you may have. You've seen results and changes in the right direction. But recently, those changes are just getting a little less noticeable or even non-existent. You're doing the same thing you've done to get those great results, but those maybe recently results seem to be plateauing. So in this episode of Stronger by Science, they discuss body adaptation. Your body is an adaptation machine. Your body adapts to the physical activity that you do consistently. Whatever physical activity that you could do consistently is what your body is going to adapt to. For example, running or swimming. When you first start running or swimming, you will burn way more energy as you navigate this new physical effort. The first handful of times that you do this activity, you have huge brain activity as your nervous system figures out the most efficient way to get you from point A to point B, with whatever goal that you've put in front of yourself. But as you get better technique and as your mind to muscle connection becomes enforced and those neural pathways become automatic, you start to adapt to becoming more efficient to that activity. This will in turn use less energy to complete the same task as when you first attempted it. That's insane, right? This adaptation has served us really well in our evolution in our past, especially in the times where we weren't sure when our next meal was going to be, but we still needed to go out using energy stores and seek out food. Let's also consider how you're doing your concentrated energy expenditure, or as we like to call it, our exercise. How are you doing your exercise? Are you doing your cardio on a cardio machine? Are you using a machine that uses large muscle groups or full body? Something like a stair climber without holding onto the rails, or running or power walking on a treadmill without using the rails, or even things that don't require a machine like swimming? Or are you deciding to use a simple single muscle machine, such as a seated cycling machine? You have to factor energy compensation for these extremely different types of modalities. Am I saying that you have to do a full body muscle group cardio exercise? I'm definitely not. Well, actually, in my opinion, when choosing what type of energy expenditure exercise that you should do to increase your total daily energy expenditure, if you want to be successful, it's going to take consistency more than it's going to require intensity. So first, when you decide what you should be doing, you should think about which options do you enjoy the most? Notice that I didn't say love, but what do you enjoy the most? Because maybe you don't love any of them, but which one will you do consistently? Which one requires the least amount of friction for you to complete? Which activity one day might you actually look forward to doing? And on top of that, does it meet you where you're at with your current fitness level and your physical limitations? If I have a knee injury, I'm not going to be doing a bunch of jumping. I'm not going to be doing a bunch of sprinting. You got to think outside of the box here. Anything that gets your heart rate up, gets you out of breath, challenges your muscles, and gets you to move and circulate blood as you exercise. This is what you want to choose. I moved to San Diego for the weather, and the thought of running on a hamster wheel inside of a gym when I could be outside is just madness to me. I know some people don't have the benefit of good weather like we do over here, but there are things out there that you can find. If you love running and you love running on a treadmill, that's great. More power to you. I support you and your journey all the way. But if you dread it, if it is monotonous and torturous to go run on a treadmill inside, why would you waste your precious time and energy doing that? Even if it was the exercise that burned the most calories. Hiking, dancing, hot yoga, even things like sauna breath work. Hell, at the very least, get a Wii or an Oculus and whatever other VR products there are out there and just play some video games in your living room. Find something you can consistently do and that you don't have to force yourself to do day in and day out. That's where you're going to find that these plateaus occur less often and for less amount of time. Next, let's talk about your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is just your daily movement. What kind of job do you have? Office jobs are brutal for overall energy expenditure. It takes a huge concerted effort just to get any movement in, both during and after work. I have my clients set a timer on their phone and have them move their body either every 30 minutes or every 60 minutes. Even if it's just to stand up, do some bodyweight squats and sit right back down, get right back to work. Or better yet, climb the stairs. If there's a bathroom on the second stairs, go use the bathroom on the next floor, rehydrate, get some water, and then go back to your desk 3 to 5 minutes later. I've talked about this before, but I love repeating this because it happens to so many of us and it paints such a vivid picture when we consider it this way. This is a very simplified example of an extremely complex system, and that is your circulatory system. But visualize this with me. When you sit sedentary, you expend minimal effort from most of the muscles in your body, especially your lower body legs. You have the most important muscle in your body, which is your heart. And that heart is a master pump. It pumps blood all the way out to your fingers and your toes. But how does that blood get back to your heart all the way from down in your toes? Is there a toe heart that pumps it back? Absolutely not. Okay, I know what some of you smarty pants out there who took anatomy and physiology courses back in your school days, I know what you're saying. Yes, the circulatory system is kind of like a giant hose where the heart's ability to pump blood through the arteries then creates enough blood pressure to get the blood to push all the way back to the veins and all the way back through it. But it's not exactly like a giant hose in the sense that we have these little offshoots called capillaries and even something called your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is essentially your waste management system. And this system, this needs movement to help it get back into the main parts of that giant hose that is your circulatory system. Our veins, they have one-way valves that open as blood gets pushed up and closes behind so it doesn't get pushed down back to your toes by gravity. But how do we help get waste from our lymphatics and our capillaries back into our veins so that they can then get squeezed up into the heart? The answer is by moving your muscles, moving your body. In this particular scenario, we're talking about moving the muscles of your foot, your calf, your thigh, your glutes. Your muscle massages these little offshoots of these capillaries and lymphatics, and this moves our blood back into our veins and back to the lungs, and then eventually back to our heart. And it does all this against gravity, which is amazing. Then the blood, once it's in the lungs, it gets reoxygenated so that then it can be moved to the heart and get pumped back out into your peripheral limbs. I can hear the Lion King song right now. It's the circle of life. But now with that context in mind, let's consider what most people are doing. If you're sitting for hours, can you visualize your blood essentially just pooling and stagnantly sitting in your lower limbs, waiting for you to just move so that it can then help get pushed back up into the veins and lungs and heart. In my mind's eye, all I can see is this gross stagnant pond getting more and more waste concentrated in one area with no flow. So if you're feeling lethargic midday, if you feel tired, sleepy, if you lack energy midday, well, it's no wonder. You have to move your body. Get up, move your leg muscles, help that blood circulate in your system, help it get reoxygenated so that the trillions of cells in your body can then receive that oxygen. I don't know about you, but if I visualize both stagnant, gross blood in my legs and dying, suffocating cells without oxygen, that's enough to motivate me to do 10 squats every 30 minutes. And one other thing that you have to consider if you've hit a plateau when it comes to your daily movement is, what does your home life look like? Your daily life, has it changed in the most recent period of time when it comes to your energy expenditure and your movement? For example, a lot of people gain weight after college. They do this because they get a full-time job and then their NEAT and their daily movement changes. They're no longer parking off campus and walking from class to class all over campus. They're sedentary in one position for long periods of time. This is a problem. And if this sounds like you got to prioritize increased small daily movement snacks into your day. Rather than food snacks, I'm talking about movement snacks. And I can almost guarantee that you're going to move away from your plateau. And speaking of food snacks, of course, we have to touch on diet here. If you're experiencing a plateau, ask yourself this: what is your daily calorie target? Do you have one? Do you know about how many calories you've eaten with your current way of eating that is getting you to maintain weight with this weight loss plateau? How well are you finding nutritional consistency? And how is your adherence to foods that match your goals? How often are you forgetting to track or take into account those little sips and dips and licks and nibbles of food that are just so easy to eat mindlessly, and then for us to chalk up as so little that they don't even make a difference? Are you taking food from your kids' uneaten meals or from your partner without tracking? Sauces, dressings, vegetables that you normally consider free food, any type of condiments, cooking oils, for sure cooking oils and sprays. All of these put together, especially over the long term, they can definitely drive your calorie intake up big time. Even if you think that you switch to healthy foods. For example, instead of using sugar, I'm going to substitute and I'm just going to use honey because honey's natural. I mean, I would consider honey a great health food in the right circumstances. But overall, if the calories are equated, even though honey is a natural and a whole food, while sugar isn't really, it's still part of the energy balance equation issue that will eventually tell our body, hey, we need to store instead of use. Eating out at restaurants. Think about how often do you eat out at restaurants? This can be so tricky because, well, one, you can kind of forget what you ate. Sometimes you remember, for example, at a Mexican restaurant that you had a burrito and beans and rice. But oops, you forgot that handful of chips and salsa that you had right before the meal. Or maybe the fourth margarita kind of slipped your mind. Or the nibble of that chocolate churro that your friend ordered and offered to you. These things, they add up. And even if the restaurant posts their exact calories, there are so many variables and really there's so much leniency, plus or minus, to what is expected or even what is legal for them to post. And it's highly unlikely that these restaurants are getting audited or fined for inaccurate calorie estimates. I don't see that happening very often. If you were trying to sell lots of food products, think about you as a business owner, and you had the option of underestimating how many calories this particular plate was and still being within the range that's okay. Of course, you're going to be a little bit on the underside and say that the main dish is like 500 calories when maybe it could be up to like 1,000 calories. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with eating out at restaurants. I do it multiple times a month. But you just have to realize you're probably going to be much further off with these meal estimates than on your own. I recommend, if you are someone who is tracking, that you overestimate by a considerable amount. You never know what kind of fat that they added to the meal or what kind of oil that they cooked it in. I just suggest minimizing the times where you're eating out when you're on a really strict and structured fitness journey, or if your results have started to plateau. Maybe this is something that you need to put off until you feel like you're back on track. Next, look at your history. If you've plateaued, look at what you've done in the past. Figure out when you've had success with your weight loss or whatever your goal is right now. When have you found success with this goal in the past? What were the circumstances? Piece together what is currently missing. What is different about this unsuccessful venture as opposed to when you did have success? Did you switch jobs from an active one to a sedentary one? Are you now home next to your fridge when before you might have had larger periods of time throughout your day that you didn't have food? Did you get married and have kids and now you're not sleeping as much as you used to, or you're eating your kids' type of food? Are you busier now with your family and working out less? Are you active outside less because your priorities have changed? These are all aspects that you might want to consider and figure out, how can I get back to that way and still meet me where I'm at when it comes to my current lifestyle? Moving on to another thing, also, maybe you have been trying your diet for so long and for so aggressively that you've been restricting your food for too long. Maybe your metabolism has adapted. This is a real thing. Signs that your body has adapted are things like hunger, or in our current case, cravings, because I'm not sure if anyone listening to this podcast knows what real hunger is like, including myself. I haven't been really hungry many times in my life. So yeah, things like cravings. Other signs that your body is adapting might be you feel lethargic, or an increase in injury rate when you're training, changes in your menstrual cycle or low libido, especially things like impaired sleep quality. We know how important sleep is. If you see any hormone results changing, these are all signs of a too restrictive diet lifestyle. And that's where you'll want to look at getting out of the hole that we've dug ourselves into through something like a reverse diet type of plan, where you increase your calories. Yeah, this sounds really counterintuitive, but in the right situations, this has been shown to be very beneficial. You could also, when you increase your calories, increase your strength training, your resistance training, while prioritizing getting better sleep and figuring out a way to control your stress levels. So if your body has adapted, think about increasing your good nutrition, increasing your good resistance training, your movement, getting some signals sent in the body that you are ready to build muscle mass, keep muscle mass, but lose body fat. And then things like sleep and stress, nutrition, movement, sleep, stress, the 4 pillars of fat loss. We always want to come back to that. So maybe it's time for you to do an energy audit on yourself. If none of that other stuff is working, maybe it's time for you to do an energy audit. When you do an energy audit, usually we are talking about maybe 500 or 600 calories that we're unable to account for per day, 500 to 600 calories a day that we can't seem to figure out where they're coming from. If you can figure out where they're coming from and adjust accordingly, and then start to make small little cuts here, small little increases or adds there to tip the scales in your favor, you might just bust through this plateau. So does this situation sound like you right here? If you're struggling with your weight loss plateaus and you have frequent untracked days where you just burn out on tracking and you eat out and you frequently binge, or you have frequent untracked dips, sips, licks, nibbles, then your issue probably isn't a metabolic adaptation. It's probably just an inconsistency with your tracking and your calorie intake. Now, if that doesn't sound like you, if you think that your nutrition is dialed in and you don't eat out very much, you don't have those extra little sips and licks, then maybe that's not the answer. Maybe you're someone that has been on such an aggressive cut for too long, a too strict diet. Maybe it's your time to figure out how to reverse out of it. If you've stalled with your weight loss with a very cardio heavy approach, so you're leaning on your cardio for weight loss, you run all the time, you do an hour a day or something like that. The biggest issue here could be the type of activity that you're choosing. You could have significant energy compensation to this specific type of activity, and it just needs a change up. You could have a major hunger response from your heavy cardio approach as well, which you will then see an increase in your calorie intake without you even noticing it. But it's variable from person to person. Some people get more hungry with the same activity than another person. This could also cause you to overeat and over-reward yourself through thinking that, hey, I deserve it because I did all this cardio, so I should be able to do this because I burned this X amount of calories, and this is only this X amount of calories. That type of thinking it could get you in trouble. Now, if a person has a low cardio or no cardio approach and you're plateauing, you're probably just really low on your total daily energy expenditure, your movement. you might want to work in some structured cardio or structured movement to move the needle for total daily energy expenditure to increase with exercise. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do cardio. I'm not saying you have to get on a treadmill and run. I'm saying the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to either insert some longer walks in nature, like a 45-minute walk 3 or 4 times a week at the park, at the beach, in the forest, in nature. Or you could break up your little movement snacks very frequently throughout your workday. That's such a great way to just increase your daily steps, your daily movement, and also prevent some of the things that happen from when you're too sedentary, as we just discussed. Sometimes people who have the response where if they don't do any cardio, they start to get hunger signals. While, as we just stated, if you have too much cardio, you could also have this same hunger response. So it's all about finding what is best for you and kind of finding your own sweet spot. How do you respond to increased daily movement, decrease cardio, changing up by increasing your calories and adding resistance training? You have to find what works for you. It's trial and error. The best way to do this is to have accurate, consistent tracking, whether it's inches, whether it's a journal, whether it's the in-body scan and you can track your body fat percentage, things like that. Stalled weight loss can also happen when there's a major life change as well. You have a new baby, you get a new job, you move to another city. So when you're in a plateau, these are all things that you want to be aware of. These are all troubleshooting factors that you want to kind of break down and see if they apply to you. When you narrow down what may be the biggest factors in your specific situation, the Stronger by Science team says that you have a few options here. This is what they said once you've dialed down what you think your current situation may be. You can either, number 1, try to reestablish your adherence, your consistency, and improve any inaccuracies in your tracking. We're trying to find a maintenance when you're doing this. So what we are trying to do is reestablish your consistency and improve your inaccuracies in tracking and get a good idea of the calorie intake that just maintains your body weight. And since you're in a plateau, this is the best time to do it. The best thing is to not change anything that you're doing. Don't change anything. Your nutritional habits, your movement habits, because right now you're plateauing, which means you're maintaining, which means that if you track exactly what you're doing, you can find your maintenance. You can find what types of food you're eating, what types of movement you're doing that keep you where you're at. Once you've gathered this, then this can give us the number that we need to either cut from or build on top of, right? This can give us a break from our calorie deficit as well, and it gives us a very valuable number. If we can figure out your total energy expenditure that keeps you the same, then now you're empowered to move forward with greater confidence when it comes to either cutting your energy intake or increasing your energy expenditure. So in a maintenance, you can just try to reestablish tracking where you're at, really dial it in for a week or two. That's option number 1. Option number 2, you don't want to track. Some people just don't want to track calories. It's annoying. It's a big effort. It's hard. So you know what you're eating now and you know what you're moving now. So instead, you're just going to cut something out of your diet just by removing something that you consistently eat. Or maybe you decide just to increase a little bit of movement and see if the needle moves in your direction. Now, this strategy can be a little dangerous because if you're in a calorie deficit and you're plateauing for other reasons besides calories, then you might have a little bit of an adapted metabolism issue here that might come out on the other side. This strategy could be a little more simple and a little easier route because it doesn't require tracking, but there is that little added aspect of danger on the other end of that. So not really what I would suggest as option number 2. Option number 3, reverse dieting. So if you've deducted that your metabolism has adapted and that is the reason why you've stalled and you've plateaued, then it's time to build it up, your metabolism, with eating more food, which I know it seems scary. You can do this in a clean way. And there are plenty of experts and plenty of content out there on the internet that can help you navigate a reverse diet. I think I'll plan on doing an entire episode on this in the near future that can help with this, but let me know if you do need some help with this right now. I can email you a 60-page reverse dieting guide that I got from the guys over at Mind Pump Media and the Mind Pump podcast. So those 3 options are really good opportunities for you to try to figure out how to bust through your plateau. But if all this is way too much, you're like, dude, give me some actionable, non-tracking type of lifestyle changes that I can make to help me get through this, I totally understand. This is where the majority of us are. So here is what I personally recommend, me. Number 1, eat real, whole foods, and mostly plants. Not too much. Eat real whole foods, mostly plants, and not too much. If you do this, you'll be fine with your nutrition. One of the experts that I follow, Jade Tita, he says that if you eat soups, stir fries, scrambles, and salads, if you reserve your food to soups, stir fries, scrambles, and salads, you will be on your way to having a beautiful, well-balanced nutritional diet. So that might be something that you want to put into your routine. Number 2, move at least 2 minutes every hour or at least 1 minute every 30 minutes. Can you get up and move your body for just 2 minutes every hour? Or at least 1 minute every 30 minutes. You can do this with a timer on your phone. You can just do this at the top of the hour by looking at the clock. Move the muscles that are the most inactive during your sedentary behavior. For most of us, it's our legs while we're sitting. Number 3, wake up at the same time every day, even on the weekends. Waking up at the same time every morning is more important than going to sleep at the same time every night. However, with your sleep at night, I recommend that you do at least a 30-minute sleep routine that is the same thing every single night. For me, it's about 90 minutes, but it's a signal to my body that I'm winding down from the day. So number 3, create your own sleep routine and have it be the same consistent time that gets your body ready for bed every night. It doesn't have to be the same time, bedtime every night, just the same sleep routine that sends the signal that you're ready to wind down. And then finally, find your way of stress relief and do this for at least 5 minutes every single day. For me, it's walks in nature, it's breath work, it's deep stretching at night, it's even slow controlled resistance training, which I know is weird that lifting weights is a stress relief, but for me, it really is. So the 4 pillars of fat loss, guys: nutrition, movement, sleep, and stress. Figure out a way that you can eat whole foods, mostly plants, not too much. Move your body every hour or every half hour. Wake up at the same time. Get a good sleep routine in. Make sure that you have that sleep routine that'll help you get better quality sleep. And then finally, find a way to de-stress. Tony Robbins said, when you hit a plateau, you have to be willing to get a little bit worse before you get massively better. That's a great quote, but I also like this one. But like success, failure is many things to many people. With positive mental attitude, failure is a learning experience. It's a rung on the ladder, a plateau at which to get your thoughts in order and prepare to try again. The best thing about all of this plateau that you're seeing, the slowing of your progress towards your goals, the perhaps frustrating time that you're experiencing, is that you're learning about yourself. You're collecting valuable data that will only add to the collective, in which you will eventually grow. Have fun learning this opportunity about yourself. Celebrate the aha moments that you experience and the breakthroughs. You're only going to get a certain amount of these experiences in your lifetime. And that's it, my friends, for this week's MEGAphone episode. Each week, we will focus on sharing information that will help you with your health, fitness, and wellness journey. Share the knowledge that you gained with your friends and your family, and hold each other accountable. If you enjoyed this content, it helps a ton if you could post on your social media stories a screenshot of this episode and offer maybe one takeaway, one thing that you learned. And make sure that you tag me and share your journey. Tag me at Livin the Dream _podcast or at Coach Damien _SD on Instagram, at Livin the Dream _podcast or at Coach Damien _SD. And let me and your network know how this episode benefited you. Let's get more people on this lifelong learner train that we call the Livin the Dream team. And let me know if you have any suggestions or tips that will help your team that we can discuss on future episodes. I will be right here with you, making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.